And Tremaine, some of the old-fashioned methods of voter suppression, of course, are with us in a way that is stronger than they have been in many years. For example, the closing of voting booths and voting stations in certain precincts and places around the country that Republicans want to suppress the vote.
When you think about what we saw in the Kentucky primaries, where Louisville had one, in the county which Louisville is in, only had one polling place, just one, down from 200. We see the long lines in Georgia when the rain is coming down and people were forced to stand in line for hours and hours. That same old playbook that has been used time and again continues today. But there was never really a break in the struggle for voting rights, right? There were ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, but folks are still fighting now. And one thing that I think is interesting, they vote unanimously to rename the bill, but we know those folks, so many of them are hypocrites who are praising John Lewis and are quick to co-opt the message of peace and unity and love, but spent their entire careers fighting the very fight that John Lewis was pushing for, which is voting rights and equality. I was having a conversation with Latasha the other day, and we said, well, what is it about voting that is so special, right? It's not about the participation, it's about the power. And they know that the more black folks especially, brown folks especially, vulnerable and marginalized people have access to the polls and the franchise, that means more power. And that induces a lot of anxiety in a lot of people.
There's a part of John Lewis's New York Times op-ed piece yesterday that's relevant to this. I'd like to read it. He said, voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. And Latasha, John Lewis had been saying that sort of thing literally for decades. And I would say 10 years ago, if that column appeared, if with him saying these things, a lot of people, including possibly me, would read it and go, come on, you can't lose it. We're past that point. We've left that behind. Now, that line, you can lose it, is vivid to everyone. We all realize we could walk up to a voting booth and discover somehow they've pulled us out and we don't get to vote today.
Absolutely. And the Brennan Center just recently did a report that talks about from 2016 to 2018, in just 2 years, 17 million people were dropped from the voting rolls. You know, we've got to really understand how suppression is fundamentally a tactic that the Republicans are using. Even in 2013, when those of us that were voting rights advocates and activists that were begging and going and trying to appeal to the Supreme Court around the ruling to not gut the Voting Rights Act, part of the Shelby decision was based on, well, that's over. We're past that. Exactly what we said would happen. We saw a tremendous amount of the polling sites closed. Even in this last election cycle, when we look at Milwaukee, in the midst of COVID, where we know we need social distancing, it went from 180 polling sites to only 5. And just as Tremaine said, even when we looked in Louisville, which 50% of the African-American population are in Jefferson County alone, 612,000 voters had access to one polling site. So we really have to look at and take this seriously, that the Republicans are using this as a strategy to suppress the vote, because this is about power, not participation.
Tremaine, one of the things about the power of John Lewis in that piece saying you can lose it, meaning you can lose your vote, is that we all believe that now. I mean, just in my own case, I've voted by mail for many, many years now. I'm always a last minute voter by mail. And this time, as soon as I get that ballot, I'm sending that ballot in as early as possible. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of that kind of energy because we all now know that our vote might not count.
That's right.
Oh, without question, Lawrence. And it varies by state. There are some states that say, you know what, as long as you have your mail-in ballot postmarked by Election Day, it's fine. Other places are saying, no, we need to receive it by that point. So when we talk about these slowdowns with the USPS, that could be a problem. There are other states where they say, you know what, they expect a 3 to 4 day turnaround to get it back. I talked to folks in Georgia during the last primary, and they said, you know what, I didn't get my mail-in ballot until Election Day. And so it's not a game. It's not a joke. It's very serious. And then you couple that with states like like, again, Georgia, not to pick on Georgia, but let's pick on Georgia, in recent years purged more than 700,000 voters from the rolls because your apartment, you moved apartments, your signature didn't match. It's a real problem. And it's like the sanctity of the vote has always been something special to Americans. And black folks have pushed for access to the franchise, which has been denied time and again, but it's under assault once again. And let's think about that North Carolina voter ID law that they tried to pass. And the Supreme Court said that law targeted black folks with surgical precision. That's what we're talking about here. Not happenstance, not trying to, root out some fraud, surgical precision.